I'm Celine and I'm a Booktube newbie, and I thought it would be time for me to actually introduce myself. This is part of the Booktube Newbie Tag, and I've linked some of the questions down below. I think the person who started this tag is actually not posting anymore, so I sadly can't link to anyone specifically, but I thought I would join in on the fun and actually, tell you some more about myself. The first question is, why did you start this channel? And for me, I don't really have a lot of people in my life that read a lot, and specifically not a lot of people that read the kind of books that I enjoy. And I've been watching a lot of booktube just over the last couple of years. I find it very relaxing, so I quite enjoy sort of watching people read things and discuss the things that they've been reading, and I really enjoy it. And I kind of thought maybe I could do it myself. Maybe I could join in making some videos and sort of join the booktube community. It also coincides with the fact that I finished my PhD in English literature last year. So I sort of went from having to read very specific books and having to read them for a very specific reason, for research purposes, which truly is not that much fun. I mean, there is some joy in research, but it's truly not the same as just picking up a book for fun. And I moved from sort of reading for research to suddenly having all of this free time and all of this sort of reading energy. Like, I suddenly could just really sit down and focus and read really difficult and complicated books in a way that I had not been able to for a really long time, just because I'd been so focused on my own research. So I've really been enjoying sort of diving back into sort of my reading mojo, perhaps. Maybe that's a good way of expressing it. And I just felt like maybe sharing my journey through all of the wonderful books that I've been reading. The second question is, what are you most excited for about this channel? And I think I'm just really excited to talk about books and to chat about books with other people. I'm a really simple girl, that's all I want, and that's all I look forward to. The third question is, why do you love reading? And that is such a difficult question. I have always loved reading. I even loved it when people read to me. That's sort of my first encounter with reading, and I was already really enchanted by stories, and being able to read myself just means that I just have much easier access to the kinds of stories that I want to read. I'm also extremely curious, so I just enjoy reading nonfiction as well, and I really like sort of discovering different places, different time periods. I honestly just want to know everything, and reading is like a little portal into the wide world of experiences and all of that wonderful stuff. The fourth question is, what book or what book series got you into reading? And that is, again, such a difficult question because I've always loved reading, and I don't really remember a lot of the books from my childhood. I know I can sort of vaguely remember some of them, but I used to go to the library when I was a small child. Basically, from the moment that I was able to read myself, I sort of took out like giant stacks of books. And I don't really remember one specific thing that really sort of got me really into it. I think it's just the whole thing. I have tons of favorites. Some of the authors that I really enjoyed when I was really young were Roald Dahl. I also really liked R.L. Stine, so I really loved the Goosebumps books. And I also really enjoyed some of the Dutch horror writers that were really popular at the time. And my particular favorite was Paul van Loon, who most people watching probably have never heard of. The fifth question is, what challenges do you foresee for your booktube channel? And I think for me the biggest challenge is that I'm a really extreme mood reader, to the point where there is truly no point in me trying to make any sort of list or any sort of schedule of what I'm supposed to read when, because I just do whatever the mood strikes. Like, I cannot be controlled, my mood cannot be controlled, and for some reason my reading mood is like really stubborn, and even if I do have to read something, it doesn't necessarily always work out for me, which I can tell you was a bit of an issue during my PhD. It was a bit of a struggle. But this also means that I will probably not post many TBRs or sort of list videos of what I'm going to be reading in a month, because honestly, I have no idea what I'm going to be reading in a month. And I go onto these sort of little tangents where I suddenly really like one specific genre and I sort of read everything I can find, and then just move on and don't read that sort of thing for another year or so. Then there were some more questions about, for example, hardcover versus paperback, ebook versus physical book, etc. And I think for me, I'm truly not that picky. I will read ebooks. I have a Kobo e-reader that I really love. It's really, really nice to just be able to load up a book and carry it with you and not have to drag the actual like physical book. I do love a good hardcover. I particularly like hardcovers for books that are really long because I find just having to hold the book open if it's a paperback, if it's really heavy, that becomes a bit of a strain. Whereas a hardcover, you can sort of prop up and sort of turn the pages that way, which is very helpful. I do also love just a nice little mass market paperback. I quite enjoy them. I know they're a bit controversial. Some people love mass markets, some people hate mass markets. I'm just sort of in the middle. I mean, I really enjoy them. They're not necessarily my preferred format. I'm also relatively new to audiobooks. I don't have like a ton of audiobook listening time, but I do find it very fun to sort of have that little extra layer of sort of acting, you know, the voice actor making voices for the different characters. I do really enjoy that, so I will occasionally also listen to an audiobook. I also quite enjoy borrowing books from the library, but it is one of those things where I will sometimes borrow a book and then not read it and then keep it for so long that the library thinks the book has gotten lost and then I have to pay a lot of fines. So it's not always ideal. I really love the digital library that we have nowadays, so I can borrow audiobooks from the library and I can borrow ebooks from the library, and that is probably perfect for me because there are no fines and it just gets deleted if the borrowing period is over. In terms of the genres that I love to read, at the moment I'm sort of in some sort of classics binge. I'm like really diving into the books that I skipped over when I was doing my degrees. My forever love is fantasy, so that's sort of my biggest background, I think, is fantasy books. At the moment I'm not reading a ton of fantasy, but there are some series I'm in the middle of that I'm hoping to finish. And aside from that, I also sometimes read mystery, a handful of thrillers now and then, occasionally a romance, although that is not truly sort of a genre that I like to read a lot of. I sometimes find it a bit repetitive if I read too many romances in a row. I really enjoy them to sort of break up some other types of books that I'm reading, especially if I've been reading some very heavy and dark and depressing books, then a romance is basically exactly what I need. I mainly read adult books. I used to really enjoy YA when it was in sort of its angel phase. People who know will know. But since then, I've sort of gone off YA. I don't really know why. There's no particular reason. It's just not something that really resonates with me at this point in life. I might get back to it at some point. So I don't read a lot of YA. I also don't read a lot of children's books, mainly because since I'm no longer a child, it also, again, just doesn't really resonate with me. Even though there are some really great middle grade books out there, for some reason the magic, it doesn't quite sparkle in the way that it used to do when I was a child, and I think it feels like I'm missing something when I read it. And the last question tells me to link my socials down below, and I'm not a huge social media person. I prefer not to sort of fall into the scrolling pit, and I don't have a lot of willpower, so if I do have social media on my phone, that is what I do. I will scroll for a very, very long time, and it's just not really the place I want to be. So I'm afraid that there's no Instagram or TikTok or anything like that that I can link you to. It's just this channel. So that is a brief outline of my hopes and dreams and my bookish habits, and I really look forward to being on Booktube. I really hope to meet more booktubers. I hope to talk a lot about various books that we all enjoy. If you're new on YouTube as well, please comment down below. I would love to check out your channel and come say hi. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again. Bye!